Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. Just dipping down to look and make sure my mic is working okay. So, as you come into these live streams, it's always great to get those warm and fuzzies. You can see me, you can hear me okay. Those are always good for us content creators who are coming live and just want to make sure everything's working appropriately. So, again, as you come on, hey, Jeff, I can see you, I can hear you. I'm visiting from X place. Always like to see where people are visiting from. Hey, Liz, thanks for being here. So, okay, as always, we're going to warm into it. I was off last week. So, thanks, Liz, for that. I was off last week. So, we got a lot to chat about today. So, obviously, here to answer any and all questions. And then in our downtime, when the comments are slow, when the questions aren't really flowing, we'll talk a little bit about the 2025 job market predictions. As you're thinking about getting into the interview process, it's kinda getting to make or break, right? We're at November 5th. If you're not getting into an interview in the next couple weeks, like pre-Thanksgiving, it's probably not gonna happen this year, and so we definitely wanna start to pre-plan for next year, think about how we're setting the appropriate plan, and thinking about the job market, predictions, in correlation with that. So, if you've been on my live sessions before, you know I'm going to take a quick step and go backwards before we go forward. So I just want to quickly highlight yesterday's video. So what I did was I did a screen share and I went into two downloadable resources that are both free at practiceinterviews.com. And basically, all I want you to do is check out that video and see. I'll go through those two sheets to kind of highlight, hey, what are the common areas where people typically have or make mistakes in their interview answers? And I wanted to use those two documents. So if you go and you download them and as you're working through them, to kind of, you can always go back and reference that video to say, oh my goodness, like this is the area where I'm messing up or not doing as good as I want. So if you haven't had a chance to check out that video, definitely do so. Again, as people are coming into the stream, say hello. Let me know where you're visiting from. Any and all questions are on the table. We, as creators, or I know myself as a creator, I create a title so that we have something to talk about in our downtime. But it's also great to get engagement. And it doesn't just have to be questions, it can be just thoughts or information that you have uncovered that you think might be valuable for the community. If this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do one on one interview coaching, one on one negotiation coaching, one on one career strategy sessions. We have an interview mastery course. I'm trying to maybe I'll just announce it now. The course is getting a full revamp and update to bring GPT into it. So anybody who's previously bought the course or anybody who's considering buying the course, we're going to update the modules to have AI because it was really built pre-AI. And so we'll give people the option to have that and use that if they want. So that course update's coming in the next few weeks. And then lastly, I think most people here are aware, I've launched an AI tool. We're going to be launching company specific interview types today. So not only can you add your own job description, but if you want to go after a more generic job, you can interview like you're at NVIDIA or Google or Meta or any of these big companies. We kind of picked 9 of the big tech companies to help you with your interview process. And if you use the promo code 2025, you get 25% off of our AI tool. What else do we want to chat about before diving in? Still kind of pausing, waiting for some questions and comments to come in. I know we have some hellos, but definitely any and all questions are on the table. And I will always try and warm into these sessions and get the audience engaged. I am here to help with whatever comes up. There are no silly questions. Lastly, if you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every single Tuesday and new original long form content every Monday. I have taken a break from doing short form content, which I need to get back to, probably not this week, but next week, absolutely. And that's it. All right, let's dive in. We're going to go through questions, and then again in our downtime, what we'll be doing is we'll be talking a little bit about the 2025 job market, and obviously would love to hear from you what you think is going to happen and some of your predictions as well. Let's have some fun. Thanks for being here. Liz, always great to have you, and always great to know that I can be seen and heard. The hearing part is obviously the most important, so the fact that the mic is working is always good. Hey, thanks for being here. And thanks for being here. I appreciate. Okay. Hey, Ivan. Tuning in from LA. Got the offer from G yesterday. Amazing. Thank you so much for everything. You rock. I would love to get your negotiation coaching if you're available. I see a slot for later today. Let's do it. Yeah, let's make sure that we get that offer going. So I would say just go ahead and book it. I do. I think I have one session, yeah, later today. So go ahead and grab that time so we can make sure we're maximizing your offer. Obviously, I'm here to help. I am not here to pitch my services. Well, not 100%, maybe 2 to 3% of the time, maybe 1% of the time, but yeah, grab that time. Let's chat. Hey, thanks for being here. Okay, Liz, you're stuck in limbo with no response from your recruiter for approximately 3 weeks. Looks like I have an open application online, and I've since applied and been rejected to 2 others. What do we do? Alright, so Liz, I just wanna go back and have you add in the additional context of where you're at with your recruiter, just so everybody can kinda, like, be reminded, and we can walk through what's best next steps and kinda what was that last conversation or email exchange that you had with your recruiter? I actually don't remember 100%, so it'd be helpful for the community, and it'd also be helpful for my brain. Thank you. Hi, I'm working with your AI tool tomorrow. Okay, cool, and I will confront my knowledge on a stakeholder management and consultative skills call with Google. I feel much more confident. A big thank you. Okay, awesome, and let's just kind of focus in on, like, stakeholder management and consultative skills, like, um, yeah, I mean, I would wanna know more about the role, and maybe we could talk about some focus areas, but, like, obviously, with stakeholder management, you're thinking about both internal teams, your team, collaborative teams, people on, like, far-reaching teams, and then, of course, external stakeholders as well, and then being good at consulting skills is looking at the data, being analytical, right, and having those good conversations. So just a number of things to be keeping in mind. Okay, we are really early to be out of questions at 8 minutes in. So I will continue to prompt this audience to, hey, any and all questions are going to be super valuable and help us flow through this live session. But let's take a break. Let's talk a little bit about the 2025 job market predictions and what's kind of going on and what are the trends and what are we seeing. So as we head into any future job market, like, it's a lot of guessing, and anybody who tells you they know exactly what's going to happen, obviously they don't. Nobody can predict the future. And so as we're looking into next year, what we are seeing is the biggest trend is how you leverage AI to be more successful in your job and not remove it and have anxiety around it, because adoption is going to be key in 2025. The more you're willing to adopt automation so you can work smarter, not harder, and work on projects that maybe do require more human interaction or human communication, we're going to see a big trend in this space. We're also gonna start to probably in 2025 see some jobs slowly getting automated out. It's just gonna be the natural progression with jobs, and so, especially as we cast a farther as we look down the road a little bit farther, what we're gonna see is over the next 3 years, we're gonna start to see more and more jobs being lost to automation, but that also means that there's potential openings for being more creative with automation, and the number one skill I can continue to push on people is the better your communication skills, the more likely It's gonna be very hard to replace you in the job market. I do think, again, we're going to see more AI jobs. So you're going to definitely see that job market trend. I think at the lower levels of, like, even software engineering, we're gonna see some job loss there, or we're going to see just fewer engineers being hired at, like, the entry level, like, the 1 to 2 years or 3 to 5 years. You're gonna see more senior engineers kind of being able to do more with automation. I think some of the roles that we've typically seen, obviously, from copywriting to legal to some other positions, and that could even be like a paralegal, like AI is going to replace some of those jobs. So and we're not I always like to be very clear. I do think that AI is going to absolutely impact the next 3 years in the job market in ways we've never seen before, but we can't have all the gloom and doom about it. We gotta just figure out, okay, like, how do we embrace it and utilize it? Because if we just ignore it, it's going to play against us. Alright, let's pause there. We're definitely gonna come back to that and chat more about it, but let's get into some questions for right now. All right, Liz, context. Been so long, I'm a bit fuzzy. Or early October, you passed the coding interview screen. Recruiter said the team was looking for SWE, not UX Eng as originally advertised, but you wanted to find another role. Okay. Found a great UX role, prototyper in AI, and applied with the fresh referral, got rejected within 5 days. I'm not about to release an AI SaaS tool. What do I write to ask my recruiter this week? So, yeah, I think what I always like to do with these follow-up emails is I like to keep it really simplistic. Hey, just checking in, trying to figure out like where I'm falling with these new roles and like how I should be communicating with you. I think sometimes we forget that people just have preferences. So, like, let's go find out your recruiter's preferences. Hey, how often should I be checking in with you? Do you prefer email? Do you prefer text? And as I know you've heard me say this a million times before, but let's figure out our audience's preferred style. That includes recruiters. Like, how do they like to be communicated with? Because if we can remove some of those barriers, it can be helpful. You can say, as I come across roles, should I be sharing them with you? Just try and say, I'm really trying to understand how to work with you because I think we're getting some positive feedback, some positive trends, and I want to make sure I'm taking control but not harassing you. And you want to say that in the nicest way. And of course, you can run that through GPT or Gemini or whatever your preferred LLM is and kinda help craft that. But I think just some transparency, could be helpful in how you communicate and see if we get feedback. Obviously, they've gotten back to you in a few weeks. It's getting to be the end of the year. There's not gonna be as much headcount. And that's the other thing to kinda recognize about as we get to the job market next year. Like, headcount takes a while. Sometimes with these big companies, especially like a company like Google, like January, February, March are still pretty slow. It takes so long to roll through that headcount. So it's just something to have some awareness around. I hope that helps. Okay, cool. I think we got that one. Okay, we did that. My recruiter from G said last month that she is waiting for headcount to process my application further. Is there any specific date or time when a position is open for this quarter? Absolutely not. There is no, it's just role dependent, right? So it's gonna go role to role or like it that waiting for headcount. So like sometimes with headcount, what I've seen at these big tech companies especially is like, somebody can borrow headcount. So if, like, my colleague Jane, I know she has 3 headcount and I have 0 headcount, I can say, "Hey, Jane, like, what do you think the viability of filling those 3 roles is this year? Can I steal one of your headcount now? I have a really good candidate, and then if I take that headcount this year, when I get headcount next year, I'll give it back to you." So some sort of, like, borrowing, of headcount is definitely a possibility. but there's no set timeline. Headcount just goes through approvals, and that's constantly going on. There's no point where they're just gonna completely shut down headcount. There's some headcount that will be closed out at the end of the year. There's some headcount that will continue to transition for more important roles into the following year. So, um, I never really saw the, like, 100% at Google, like, use it or lose it. It's like it was just so dependent on the team and going up through those levels of leadership. I know that was a little long-winded, but I hope it helps. Hey, Jeff, really appreciate your efforts over the last 5 years. Awesome. I've cleared round 1 of Google for a data analytics measurement role. Round 2 is scheduled this week, Googliness and leadership. Any live inputs? Yeah, I always, with the G&L interview, just what I'm seeing from a trending perspective, and remember, I don't have all the data, but the biggest kind of small change that I've seen in the last year or 2 is really, and people have probably heard me say this before, is a real push towards decision making. Tell me about a decision you made in the last year or 2 that you would change. Um, you have how would you handle, multiple stakeholders who have differing opinions? It's like all like, how do you make decisions, and then how do you make decisions thinking about collaboration and inclusivity? And if you really were to see all the G&L questions, and sometimes people share them with me, I don't ask for them, but they share them with me, and so if you were to see all the G&L questions, if you can bring in, like, not only how you've made decisions in the past, behavioral side, but on the hypothetical side, how you would make decisions, and then bring in that really collaborative and inclusive lens, it's gonna be everything. So, you can use something like my AI tool to practice that. You can go to GPT and say, "Create 20 behavioral and hypothetical questions all around decision making." It will do that for you. You can practice those types of questions. So, that's my strong recommendation. If you come into that interview and you show how you make strong decisions, it will really help. Hey, Jeff, I'm not securing enough responses in interview calls. I had only 2 interviews this year, but may be 200 plus applications. I've been mindful to apply if I have 60% plus of the skills. So I'm glad you're here, and I want to really articulate this to the audience, and I want to just kind of like build that psychological safety that like what I'm about to say is intended to be very, very. And so I continue to see the 100 plus applications, 200 plus applications, 500 applications, 1,000 applications. You're not going to get interviews through applications. I mean, it's just the reality. It's low hanging fruit, right? There's just way, way too many ways to apply to jobs now. From easy apply to you apply on LinkedIn, you apply on X site, you apply on the company site. Like there's just way too many applications now. And so what's happening is that number of applications is not going to really skew the results. If you go up to 400, 600, 800 applications, it's not really going to be like all of a sudden you get 10 or 20 interviews. It just doesn't work that way. So what I want you to think about is how do I get a little more creative? The next time you want to apply, just pause and say, "Ooh, I meet 80% of this criteria. I really want to apply to this job. Can I go find the hiring manager on LinkedIn? Do I know anybody who works at that company to get referred?" I know these are basics that you're probably doing already, but the number of applications is not an indication of success. Just throwing more applications out there isn't ultimately going to get you more interviews. And people would say, well, it's a law of averages. But with applications, historically, what people aren't telling you is that about 10% of candidates historically have gotten jobs through job applications. That's just been kind of the fuzzy stat. We don't know if it's fake news or whatever, but it's close enough. Now it's probably 3% because the reality is that there's just so many ways to apply and easy apply that there's just every company, small company, medium company, large company, they're just getting so inundated with applications that you will get lost in the weeds very, very so we just gotta get as creative as possible when it comes to all the things that help us get into the interview process. It's easier said than done, but I just my kinda general comment, and I just again wanna create the psychological safety here. It's like, I see a lot of, like, applications as kind of like a badge of honor, like, "I've applied to this many jobs," and it's like, well, applying to jobs isn't super valuable, right? And so, I just want you to get as creative as possible, and the joke with all of us content creators is anytime we do content on networking, nobody watches it, but networking is absolutely the best way to get a job. So, ugh, I know that's a very, very long-winded answer. Please come back and let me know if you have any questions. I had to reschedule my final loops. Concern that family emergencies and vacations impacts my opportunity given competition from other candidates who are readily available to interview. Yeah, so we just need to get in front of this right away. Like, this is for anybody who's watching now. There's a really simple formula that we need to follow. Like, if we need to push interviews, the number one thing we want to ask our point of contact, mostly the recruiter, sometimes the hiring manager, hey, I have some things going on, vacations, I had some things pop up. If I push these interviews out, am I putting the job at risk? As a recruiter or hiring manager, it doesn't benefit me to not be transparent and honest with you. There's no benefit to me. So, in my time as a recruiter, people would say this to me. They'd say, "Hey, I need to push out the interviews." And I'd say, "You know what? That's fine. Like the pipeline's weak. Like we don't have a lot of other candidates. You're fine." And other times I'd say, "Look, I have 3 pretty good candidates right now. I just if you can do anything to take the interviews, I encourage you to do it because I don't know if you wait 1 to 2 weeks if it's still gonna be around." But obviously, sometimes your point of contact will not be that proactive, so you need to ask that question, and that will really help, and again, I don't know if that works for this specific scenario, but it's just we get in front of that as much as we can, and I'm sorry to hear that things have been going on that have been, interrupting the process for you, but I that's my always recommended strategy. Recently, Google CEO said about 25% of code is being written by AI. What's your take on this and the future of the workforce? Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know, but I think that I don't wanna say, like, we're never gonna need software engineers, but, like, coding is something that AI can definitely take care of. I am not an engineer, so I can't say, what the level of capabilities are, but, like, when I talk to people who are in engineering, they're definitely utilizing it. They're definitely having AI help write the code, check for syntax and bugs and, like, all that stuff, and so this is why I think I had mentioned this really early on in this live session is that the more junior software engineers, that's going to be really challenging because the more senior level, you're getting to more levels of complexity and AI utilization, but that's going to increase the percentage that AI is writing code. We're at 25% now. It's not like we're at 30% by the end of next year. We're probably at 60% by the end of next year. And then maybe by the following year, end of 2026, maybe we're at 90%. So I am just a little concerned about the future of software engineering just because so many people have put so much time and effort in building those very, very difficult and challenging skills. And the question is with any sort of looking at coding or data or analytics or anything that's going to involve these types of formulas, calculations, whatever we wanna call them, that AI will be very good at replacing those types of roles. So I am a little concerned for software engineers. It's because they've been driving the market. They've been the highest paid role for a long time now. So if we remove all the engineers from the job market, what happens to not only the economy here in the US, but the global economy? It could be very, very impactful. Yeah. So, I think the future of engineering is gonna really, really change. Hey, Jeff, good day. You are great and full with energy. Awesome. What are your thoughts on the job market right now, specifically at Google? I feel like the job market's pretty good right now. It's kinda tricky because this is like what people don't realize is, like, right now in November, where we're at right now, hiring's really good. This is a good time of year to get hired. People feel like, "Oh, we're getting into the holiday season." We're not there yet. We're only at November 5th, and trust me when I tell you these employers, these hiring managers are super motivated to get people in place, get them maybe through that job orientation in December so that they can hit the ground running in January. So it's a little skewed right now because it feels like it's busy and people are hiring like crazy. Um, the overall job market feels pretty decent. We have some layoffs, but it's stayed a little more stable. I've seen an increase in the number of openings in big tech, so that's nice to see. I think what we wanna be thinking about is, like, what are the roles and, like, what are the trends? The trends are gonna be the most interesting item, like, what's trending? What are the jobs that we're seeing much more hiring for? What's really slowing in hiring? And starting to look to those trends in next year, but I think right now the job market's pretty decent. See what happens. It's kind of a big day here in the US because we're voting today, and obviously those results probably won't be final for maybe a week or 2, but, that can impact some of the job market and economic conditions too, and for better or worse, the US can push the global economy up and down, so it'll be trends that we'll wanna look at. Speaking of AI, I wanted to mention that Claude is outstanding. Yep. Um, Outstanding in JS, okay. Had to untangle social sign-in with GitHub yesterday using both mobile and web apps. GPT reached a brick wall, Claude sorted it. Yeah, so we are using on our AI tool, we're using a little bit of Claude now as well. I think it's like Sonnet 3.5. Yeah, we're getting good results with Claude. I always kind of mention GPT because that's kind of like the one that I play around with, but Claude is definitely showing some it's showing some really, really good results. And so, yeah, some of the I won't get into all the background on it, but we use a third party tool to fix our prompt engineering, and we can do it in real time. And uh, that's currently pulling off a Claude. So we're kind of like always playing around. The original prompts were built in GPT. I have recently interviewed for a position about data scientist research. Why do they do judging on probability quizzes in the first round? So I would definitely need to know like a little bit more. What's the company? Um, okay, so it's data scientists. So you're a data scientist, or again, like data scientist, and then like researcher tend to be different, but like a data scientist focused in research. But what's the company? And then um, quizzes in the first round, I can't really speak to that. I mean, companies definitely, like, do assessments and stuff, but why they would do quizzes, I don't know. I don't really know what that looks like. Maybe you can provide more details and I can be more helpful. Do referrers at G receive a bonus if you sign on? I'm concerned about having 2 people refer me as opposed to returning to the initial one. The first referrer has been at the company much longer and took the extra step of writing into an email to the HM. That I got a first interview and then the interview or got involved. It's a better experience having the company pull rather than me push. Yeah. Um, I actually don't know. I don't know. It used to be 4 grand, if the person accepted, and then for a long time, they, like, tried to get rid of it, and I just my memory's bad on it. I can't remember if they actually got rid of it or not. I feel like they were definitely trying to, because some people were definitely finagling the system to their benefit when it came to referrals. I just honestly don't remember. I can look that up and kinda try and find out and tap into some of my stakeholders, but don't worry about that, Liz. Um, that's really not on you to be, like, concerned whether somebody gets a referral bonus or not. Like, people should be referring you because they like you and wanna help you, and if they get any form of a bonus, whether that's Google or any other company, like, they should be doing it because they believe in you as a person, as an employee, and, like, worrying about the benefits or who's gonna get it and who's not gonna get it. Um, I just don't want I just don't want that for you. I don't want you to try and control something that you really don't have 100% control over. I know that that's not maybe a great answer, but I hope it helps. Okay, so as always, as we approach the 30s, at the 30s, I'm going to do a 30-second prompt on my services, and then we'll jump right back into questions. If you're here today, we have a promo code. Use the promo code 2025. You'll get 25% off of our AI interview tool today. Still doing one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching, and one-on-one career strategy sessions. That's resume, LinkedIn, and networking strategies. Still have our killer interview mastery course. As I mentioned early on, we're updating the entire interview course to have more AI components or to bring AI into it. It was built pre-AI, or not pre-AI, but before large language models were really a public-facing thing and readily available. So we'll be doing some updates there. Uh, I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original content every Monday, and still going to push some shorts as well coming up soon. So if you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you never subscribe, consider subscribing. All right, let's dive right back in. Yeah, I agree, Jeff. I asked the question, and for one, they confirmed it's not an issue. Another one was non-committal. Yeah, so just a quick flashback. This is about if you need to push out an interview, if you have emergencies, you have vacation, you need more time to prep, you're just always going to ask your recruiter or hiring manager, your point of contact, am I putting anything at risk by delaying this interview? It's just a great question to ask. They should be so transparent. And if one's non-committal, then I don't know. Sometimes that can just be a lack of organization on their end, a lack of prioritization, or like maybe that's just a personality type. 100% agree about networking. One of my recent opportunities was from a random connection I made, which serendipitously led to an interview opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I could spend forever talking about this, and nobody really wants to listen to me on this, but it's just LinkedIn. I mean, let's just call it what it is. The tool itself is not great. They do not put a lot of care and effort into the tool. And a lot of the UI and UX is really poor on LinkedIn, but there's a billion users. And so we're really missing out on opportunities if we're not at least getting active on LinkedIn, making sure our profile is optimized. 99.99% of profiles are not optimized. Not optimized, not even close, okay? And so how are we doing that? But then how are we making those reach outs, being proactive, and definitely giving first? Found this cool article, I found this cool video, I hope you enjoy it, and not just coming in and asking for things. People always ask on LinkedIn, and if you give, it will feel different. Hey, Jeff, another one. Seems like there's lots of talent in the US. Why would companies seek to hire foreign talent? What's really in it for them? I can't see it for pay differences. Um, well, companies look to hire the best talent, right? And sometimes the best talent is going to be abroad, or the best talent is here but requires sponsorship. Usually, companies are not seeking it out, but if there's an opportunity for it, they have to be able to validate. Like anybody who's getting sponsorship or getting hired from abroad, these companies are going to have to validate that they couldn't find that talent locally. But most of what I see is sponsorship, which obviously I'm a huge fan of. But yeah, it's what's in it for them is these companies are trying to hire what they think is the best candidate. I mean, they don't. Nobody really knows. I mean, we obviously are here, and one of the things I coach on is to be fantastic in interviews, so you can be highlighting your skills, but there's just so many unknowns to know whether somebody's gonna be a match. Just having a match on paper or having good interview skills isn't always gonna, obviously work out in the end. It's an interesting question. Oh, for Google. Okay. Um, Probability quizzes are too basic and nobody uses them in their daily projects, but was asked in a Google interview for a senior data scientist position. I was expecting questions related to the current job. Ooh, all right. So we're probably going to need more context here. Um, I haven't heard of data scientists at Google being asked like probability quizzes. So um, the only thing I can think of is that, like, a data scientist might get an estimation question. But, yeah, let's come back. Let us know more. I wanna just understand the full context, so I'm providing a valuable answer because I still don't think I 100% understand what's going on. I have not classically seen this for data scientist positions, so, yeah, I'd love to know more. Jeff, when you say getting in touch directly with the hiring manager, recruiter's current employees is the best way to get your foot in the door with interviews. Um, so I'm going to throw out recruiters. I do not believe recruiters are the right target audience when networking, but I do think hiring managers and current employees are great. Look, with hiring managers, a lot of the time we're just not going to know. We're just guessing, right? We think that they're the potential hiring manager, but I also think the challenge is, "Hey, I think you're the hiring manager. Here's my resume for the role. Let's get me an interview." It's like, ooh, that's not great either. And so the best way to get in the door is to try and network with current employees that maybe you have some level of commonality with. That could be same school, same previous company, same location, any sort of commonality, and we use that as our opening. "Hey, Stu, I see you're also located in San Diego and also a program manager. I came across this really cool article on Forbes talking about the future state of program management. Just wanted to share it with you. Here you go." And we don't ask for anything. This giving model, which I've talked about ad nauseum on these lives and just in general, it's a long approach. It's going to take some time. So it's not a right now. If people need a job right now, you're unemployed, you've gotta get that job now, then maybe you need to be more aggressive in your tactics. But I just know how people reach out to me on LinkedIn. Now, of course, I'm in a very fortunate place where I get a lot of gratitude messages. That's probably not happening for most people, but, like, at these big tech companies, everybody's just like, "Here's my resume, hire me, like, I'm great for the job," and it's not a great networking strategy, and then the reason why I say stay away from recruiters is they just get so inundated unless it's, like, the ideal role. They are noting that they're recruiting for that role, and you have the perfect resume, stay away from it. But if all those things align, like they've posted the job, you're a match, I would send them a note with your resume and say, "Hey, I have these top 5 skills. We should be chatting." Now, for those cases, you can do that. It's also just really important to understand, just spend the time getting a pulse that you're reaching out to the right person. It can take a little bit of due diligence, but it's definitely worth the time because if you do tap into the right person, it can be super, super impactful. Um, that was a little long-winded. I hope it helps. Let me know if you have additional questions. How consequential is Amazon's 5-day-a-week policy? Um, it's so hard. It's such a great question, right? Like, they're gonna lose people, and this is kinda like going back to Amazon's, like, broader philosophy, which was, like, I remember getting into tech in 2013 and just kinda understanding that Amazon was hiring remote then, like, well before COVID. They were more remote friendly. So, getting back to 5 days a week in the office is I don't believe in it. I think that certain people perform better in the office. I think certain people perform better working from home, and the biggest item that's coming up here, and I actually was reading this in a book yesterday, was, they feel like there's a loss in terms of exchange and social capital, and that's so important, but you can build in systems and processes that still allow for that in a remote setting that can really trigger success, and there was a case study in this book I was reading, I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it was a book on communication skills, and so, um, yeah, they're gonna lose some people, and it's just I feel like these decisions are made because they're saying that it's just matter of fact, it's just better this way, and we all know that it's not better one way for anything, right? So, there's it's just not that black and white, and so it's I don't know, I don't love it, I'm glad I don't have to deal with it, but it's an interesting topic for sure. For someone who works in FAANG as a non-tech role, is it worth moving to tech in the future? Um, hey, it's a great question. So, Raheem, I think like what I really want everybody to be thinking about, and this is just a hard exploration that we all need to do with ourselves. And for everybody watching this live session right now, what I would just ask yourself is ask yourself if I could be automated, if my job could be completely automated, is that possible? What would that look like? And remove any barriers. Just think about it. Like, could I actually be replaced? And if the answer is yes, then how are you looking at the jobs where you can't be replaced? And I think in a lot of the non-tech jobs, some of the reason why those jobs will be really powerful now and in the future is the non-tech jobs are going to have maybe a stronger component of really strong communication skills. I still think that strong communication skills are needed to be successful in any job. But I think about a job like a program manager, for example. Like, you just simply it doesn't matter how much automation, how many project management tools you use, you're gonna need a human in that role to bring people together, to discuss things, to keep things on time, on budget, keep the requirements from jumping all around, and AI is just not gonna be able to do that. So that's a great non-technical role that because of the heavy communication component, it's just not gonna go away. So, I always kinda, like, reflect on this, and obviously we all experience the world through our own very unique lens. We've had these billions of interactions in the world, and so, like, we all have this unique way of looking at things, but, I mean, I looked at that for myself. Could I be automated? Could interview coaching and negotiation coaching and all this stuff be automated? And I said to myself, "It can be. I can be automated." I mean, I think I'm good at what I do, but I just wanted to have the recognition that I could be automated, so I built a tool that sounded like me to automate myself out. Right? And so just a big, big question to be asking ourselves is like, could our role be automated? And then what are the roles that may be tougher to automate? Wow, again, that was long-winded. I hope somebody got value out of that. Oh yeah, true. The UX is so bad. I think that we're talking about LinkedIn and so I have this video that I wanna do. It's a total waste of time, and it's not really gonna benefit my business, and that's why I haven't done it, but I really wanna go through and do a video on all the things that are broken from a UX and UI perspective. Because I mean, let's call it what it is. LinkedIn was bought for $26 billion. The fact that they have so many parts of their UI and UX broken, it's crazy to me. I look at my SaaS product and I mean, I know that it's not perfect, but I just would never allow for all the broken things all the time. It just blows my mind. Jeff, how can you give to a random stranger on LinkedIn? Let's say an HM. This is the article, this article that X reminded me of your approach to work. Won't you just have to be direct in engaging a stranger? Nope, you don't. Because the likelihood that anybody's gonna respond to you, it's a small percentage. Look, if I'm a hiring manager on LinkedIn, especially at an elite company, and I actually alert to that or I prompt towards that in my LinkedIn profile, how many times do you think they're gonna get hit up? Once? Twice? or 100 or 500 times. They are going to get crushed. And so giving is a great way to begin the relationship. People respond better to people who give than ask. It's just a natural way that we live in this world and work in this world. And again, it's a long strategy. If you we're looking to give to 5 people this week and get 5 responses and have everybody throw us into the interview process, no, you're gonna have to do this 50 times, 100 times plus to maybe get a couple responses, and that's what I think is required from a networking perspective. Now we can repurpose those articles, those messages to just tweak them a little bit, um, but yeah, it's if you're always trying to be direct, it's always like, "Give me this job. I want this job. I'm a match for this job. Look at me." And it's like, well, that's very you focused, right? And again, I'm saying you in a more general context and way. But if it's, hey, this is valuable for our intended audience, then it's just a value. It's just giving. And my story always remains the same. In 5 years at Google, I received thousands and thousands of messages, probably more than 10,000 messages, LinkedIn requests. It was insane. I had Google in my background and people wanted to reach out. And so in those 5 years, only one person reached out with a giving strategy, and let's just say that person ended up at Google because I helped them because they were different. And so I used that strategy before that person even did it with me, but when I saw them do it with me, I wanted to help them. Is everybody gonna wanna help? Could you take that strategy? Absolutely not, but being different makes you stand out, and when you're different by giving, it will leave a positive impression, but it's definitely a long strategy. Just wanna say thank you for all the help and information. It helped me get far with some of the big name companies, but before I got too far, I found an open internal rec that was perfect. Okay. So I pursued that, and your advice was also helpful in getting that internal move up. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming in here and the positive vibes. Like, this community is awesome. Everybody who comes in here and shows up, and I have no idea who's a repeat visitor, who's here for the first time, right, when I come in here, but, um, it's a super, super positive community, and I hope that we've built that tribe and that this community will continue to be positive, have gratitude even when things can be pretty tough, and amazing to hear. Congrats. Keeping fingers crossed, an opportunity. The HM wanted the recruiter to chat after I talked to the recruiter, mainly to talk about comp. I emphasized interest in the role versus negotiating on cash. Thoughts? I just don't like, I don't talk about comp until they want to give me an offer. When they want to give me an offer, I'm in the power position. I want the power. I want the control, and I have the control. When they've decided I'm the candidate, then we talk about comp. Beforehand, I'm open and negotiable. Would you accept X? I wanna learn more about the role. I wanna meet the team, deflect, 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 and then ultimately, we get after it with that big anchor. As everybody knows, I love the big anchor. Now, of course, if you're gonna drop a big anchor, know the company. Google, Amazon, Meta, Apple, Microsoft, like, are they gonna care if you drop a big anchor? No. Is a small or medium-sized company gonna get scared by a big anchor? Potentially so. If we don't know their negotiation philosophy, we have to ask, but at a company like Google, yeah, we go big. They don't rescind offers. People get scared to go big, and then they leave money on the table, even at a best and final. Like, we got a best and final with one of my negotiation clients a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't even a high-level role, and we just went back and we pushed back, and we ended up getting 60,000 more in equity. And it was just to ask, we said, "Hey, I understand, and I wanted to acknowledge that you said best and final, and I think we're really close. If we can just get to X, I'll sign the offer." That was a 2-minute conversation for $60,000 over 4 years, and 70K in the first 2, or 70% in the first 2 years. So it's always worth asking. I know that was a little bit of a sidebar, but I hope it helps. Hey, Jeff, I have my first Google interview next week. How can you best distinguish between a product manager and product support manager at Google? How can you best distinguish? All right, Free Planet. Well, product manager is going to be like a level up. Product support manager is going to be in more of like a supportive role. Oh, God, I know that sounds like I'm not saying anything because I'm not really. Um, I just for both roles, it's just really important, like the product manager role at Google, it's just the randomness of the questions is just really overwhelming. So I want you to practice on the randomness. Go to tryexponent.com. It's tryexponent.com and look at the source questions. But like design a gas station, build a go-to-market strategy for a rug business. I mean, it's just like the randomness is it's just overwhelming the randomness. So just make sure you have a good approach to how you're going to answer those questions. And then my number one piece of advice, anybody who's a product manager or looking at product manager roles, you have to move from ideation to execution. All the product managers I coach, they spend so much time like throwing out all these ideas, but they don't actually solve for anything because it's all ideating. And most product managers have very good ideas, but we got to take our ideas, test, execute, and launch on those ideas when we're answering interview questions. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. Does me being in Africa affect my applications at FAANG? Yes. I mean, if you are applying to roles, if you're a citizen of a country in Africa and you don't actually have a local Google office in that country, then yeah, absolutely. It will make it more challenging. Anybody who tells you it will not be challenging is not being honest or transparent with you. And it's important to remember that nobody should hold you back from trying, but just know that there are so many laws and restrictions in place that hiring from abroad, uh, that organization is actually going to have to validate that they can't hire that person in their local country or that that talent doesn't exist in their local country. So it's just something to keep in mind. But I don't want it to stop you from trying, and then it's also just kinda understanding, well, like, what are the countries that are easier to relocate if you needed to? Um, but if it's like a US-based role in the Bay Area, then they're going to prioritize US-based candidates first, for example. Hope that helps. My rudimentary okay, so we're going back to, product support manager versus product manager. My rudimentary understanding is that a product support manager will focus on post-launch experience centered on maintaining and optimizing the user experience for existing products rather than creating new ones. Oh, okay, so I'm actually, like, not really, like I've never, um I've never seen the product support, manager role at Google before. Very familiar with their product manager roles, very familiar with their product marketing manager roles, coached on those roles tons of times, but this product support manager, may be newer. I'm just not familiar with it at all. I've never seen it. So, I'm gonna rely on your expertise because it's just not something I've seen, and obviously it's a great opportunity to really push the recruiter to say, like, "What is the differentiator in this role, and, like, what do I need to focus in on?" Because it could lean much heavier into that back end again of user experience. How do you tackle user experience when the feedback's not good? How do you make sure you're finding good feedback on user experience, etcetera? Lots of things to consider. You cannot be automated, Jeff. Maybe some of your advice, but not you. Well, thank you. That's very nice. But I am, but again, I always go in and I challenge, right? And so what I do is I challenge people when they say like, "Oh, like my job can't be automated or AI can't take my job." And I just say, "If it could, what would that look like?" And I start to kind of go through the exercise with them of like, well, what are all the things that could actually happen that would automate that job out? And it's just a really good exercise. And you can even use an LLM to ask this question. It's going to be like, no, you can't replace humans. If we could, what would that look like? And so it's just a good exercise because we just if we don't have a pulse on it, we're not doing our due diligence in what's best for us as humans at this moment, right? And that's something that I've pushed on extensively. And, to date, it's like 70 to 80% of people, when I do LinkedIn polls, are not worried about AI at all. That's scarier than AI. The fact that people do not believe that their jobs can be there will be job loss, and it's just we have to bring in a little bit of the perspective. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but we have to bring in a little bit of the perspective of it's going to happen really, really fast. There's going to be a major new release or update that's all of a sudden gonna remove millions of jobs from the job market, and once one big company does it and does the layoff of that role, all the other companies will follow suit, and that's what I see for the recruiting role. I think the recruiting role could be completely automated today and provide a better candidate experience. In 3 years, I think that role doesn't exist anymore. People disagree with me, and maybe companies will take too long to get rid of that position, but once they see how all the pieces of the puzzle come together for automation, you won't have recruiters anymore. Everything will be automated, and the process will be better, faster, and with better hiring. Just my thoughts, of course. Okay, well, we love listening to you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I obviously appreciate everybody showing up. This is fun. Love your support and insights, Jeff. As always, thank you for sharing. You're an inspiration. I think I just had an epiphany. Asking is serious, giving is playful, and play is fun. And it's just got to think about percentages, right? Like, I don't know, I'm gonna give a weird analogy, like, if you walked down the street and, like, you walked by 100 restaurants and, like, 99% of them were serving sushi, but then the 100th place was serving pizza, it's like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting, that's different," right? And so 99% of people who reach out on LinkedIn or whether it's 95% or definitely in these instances, it's more like 99%. I'm a fit for the job. Give me the job. I'm a fit. Look at my resume. Get me an interview. Or like, hey, I thought you'd find this interesting. Have a great day. Don't ask for anything. It's a really amazing experience. It's a switch up. It's like unexpected. And it's nice and it's fun. And then that person might think, oh, maybe I should take a closer look at this person's background. They're smart. Like they're sharing some cool stuff. And it works, and I know it works because I've personally used this strategy. I've had other people report that this strategy works, and I helped somebody get into Google who used this strategy, so I know it works. Is it 100%? No, it's a very low percentage, but it's a higher percentage than just always asking. And if you wanna ask sometimes, just ask, but give too and kinda play around with it and see what works better. You had an HM reach out to you on LinkedIn, and we had a 20-minute chat, mostly non-technical. His final question, salary expectations. I politely said I hadn't thought of it yet. 2 days later, he reached out saying they will be pursuing other candidates with a better fit. I thought it had to do with me not answering salary expectations. Great news. You dodged a bullet. If somebody will not pursue additional conversations with you because you do not introduce salary expectations right away, that's just an indication of somebody who lacks maturity, right? Like nobody going into the interview process should ever give their salary expectations. If that's the reason why they decided to move forward with other candidates, then that would just be ridiculous and you dodged a bullet. So, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Um, Very easy for me to say that being on the other side. But I just when these decisions are made on these, like, little tiny items, if that was the reason, then that's good news for you, not bad news. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. I still remember how much your YouTube lives helped me with negotiating higher comp. This is 2 jobs ago. Awesome. Yeah, negotiating's fun. I would just wish more people, like, got it, and I just wish that they didn't have the fear. And I understand there are times where, negotiating can hurt us. Okay, it's important to understand that. I've had my entire negotiation business, I've had 2 offers rescinded. I only look at one as a true rescind. The other one, they couldn't tell my client they wouldn't confirm the hiring manager or the job role. And when she questioned it during the negotiation process, they rescinded. So, like, that one I don't even count, and that was from a big company, not a FAANG, but a big company. And then the other one that rescinded, it was from a big company, again, non-FAANG, and the way that they handled that process, I went all the way up to the CEO, let them know that I worked with a negotiation client and that their business was completely broken and embarrassing, and I held all the stakeholders accountable because they really just messed that one up. If we're gracious and kind when we negotiate and they still rescind the offer, we win because, like, we don't wanna work at that company, but it's really important to understand the negotiating philosophy of a smaller company. If it's not public, you ask them, "What is your negotiation philosophy? Do you negotiate base, equity, sign-on, benefits?" Especially if we're talking about a small company, we can ask those questions. How effective is the AI interview tool for FAANG companies other than Google? So, Edward, it's a great question, and thank you. I'm not a Google coach, right? Like, again, I get it. People are here for the Google content. I worked at Google, but I learned from chatting with people on these live sessions, from conducting now, I'm approaching 3,000 one-on-one coaching sessions. I've learned through those sessions. If you follow the STAR method and then dig in on the behavioral side the way I've broken it down, if you dig into hypothetical answers using the CFAS method the way I've broken it down, you're going to have better success at all companies. So my tool was not built to be Google specific. We are and did, I don't know when it's coming out. It may have been launched during this live, but we are releasing interview styles by company, where we don't even you won't even need a job description anymore to do that. But the reality is that the tool is fantastic for anybody looking to improve their skills. Like anything in this world, the only way you're going to get better is to play all out, right? Like everything is effort and discipline and hard work combined with a little bit of luck. But my tool is not Google specific. All right, I'm from India today. I heard about your strategy in a behavioral interview and I started following you, which for good information about all this. Okay, awesome. Thanks for being here. I know it's pretty late your time. Appreciate it. Appreciate the call out on interview prep. Thanks so much for the great advice. Thanks for being here. Later today, I'm checking in with my mentor. How do you recommend I keep these meetings fun and productive and I give more than I receive? I just like to I do prep, right? Like I think always how I can give. And so like sometimes when I have meetings with like mentors or people I'm trying to impress, sometimes there's a really sneaky and easy trick is to help them optimize their LinkedIn profile. Say, "Hey, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. I don't know if you've ever, like, considered doing these things that could maybe help," or like, yeah, I'm just trying to give them advice. I always ask people, like, "Are there any connections I can make for you? Anything I can do for you?" I kinda start with that giving approach. Um, those are really generic items. Let me know if you have more questions. Hey, Jeff. Had a word with you 2 weeks back as well. It's been 2.5 months since my last round, and there's no open positions since then. How should I go about it? Um, I wanna budge my HR much. I check in with her 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, 2 to 3 weeks. 2 ratings, hire on sites, 1 hire, 1 strong hire, 1 leaning no hire, hire. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and you're awesome. Thanks for that. So, yeah, I think that checking in every few weeks is fine. Um, and no open positions since then. You may not see openings till next year. Yeah, so it is very important that you keep the pulse, and if you see something, again, one role at a time. When we have that relationship, let's not overwhelm. The link to the role, 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a fit, your preferred contact info, your availability, your updated resume that matches that role, all those things. But I think every 2 to 3 weeks, maybe as we get through the later end of the year once every 3 weeks, but keep your pulse on the job, but it may be till next year. It just may be that slow. If interviewed at Google, and they asked me if I'm okay if they would level me down. Recruiter said, "The salary band won't be go beyond a certain amount based on level, so I can ask for more." We can always ask for more, right? Like, you can always say if they say, "Hey, like, the base salary doesn't go behind beyond 150K USD," you can always say, "Hey, I just wanna check and, like, my expectations are 160." If they're like, "Hey, it doesn't go beyond 150," I'd really appreciate if you check with the comp team, but remember, base and Google are that's just one component. Your total comp should usually double with the other components, especially as we're going up to, like, 5 or level 6 or level 7, like, you should see significant increases in total comp. The base, especially at a company like Google, that's not gonna be as competitive as the equity. Obviously, their bonuses are really strong and sign-on bonuses, but just be thinking about the whole package. When we talk about leveling down, um, you wanna think about your current situation. Does it make sense? Sometimes leveling down to get in the door, if we don't have a big brand in our background, is worth it because the brand is priceless, right? And so, um, the vast, vast majority of people entering a company like Google are getting a pay increase, but not everybody, but some people will do it for the branding, and the branding's worth it 100%. Hope that helps. Interview styles. Yeah, so we are building it in for the top 9, Google, NVIDIA, Meta, Apple, Tesla, right? Like, those will be again, those could have been released as recently as during this live session. They're supposed to roll today or tomorrow. Um, we we're still trying to figure out the flow of it, but we just wanna ship it and get it into production, and that just means shipping and getting it into production just means it's live. We're always gonna try and ship and not worry 100% that it's perfect. We want users to test it, give us feedback, and obviously, we're gonna work out all the kinks and bugs on our end beforehand, but things will come up. But it's just a recommendation for everybody, ship in perfection. All the most successful people in the world have not tried to get things perfect before they shipped, always ship, and that is I speak to this quite a bit, but that's probably the biggest learning lesson from Google for me is I did learn to ship in perfection. I was definitely a perfectionist before I joined that organization, and then after I was like, "Okay, I can just get it out there, get feedback, and make sure that people are getting some value instead of no value." Thank you. An Africa question. I did receive the Google hiring assessment and passed it, but never heard back. So those were my assumptions as well. And it's really important to note, Jesse, like that just passing the assessment anywhere does not guarantee an okay. So it's a step you have to get through to be able to interview, but it doesn't always mean because you pass it, you're going to get one. I hope that context helps. Also, HM wants to request for L3. I interviewed for L4 and recruiters sent me to HC to request for L4. So is it possible to negotiate the levels? It's not. You can always request, but you cannot negotiate levels. So you could say, "Hey, look, I'm more interested in L4. What does that look like? A, do I have that option? And if the answer is yes, then B, like, what does that look like? 1 additional interview, 2 additional interviews?" So, you just wanna ask the questions, but you do not actually and cannot actually negotiate the level. Thanks, Jeff. I did indeed offer a couple of connections that could be helpful to my mentor last time. Great suggestions. Claude is calling me back to refactoring work. Catch you next week. Awesome. Thanks for all your help today and re-energized again. Liz, thank you so much for always showing up. You're an amazing contributor to this community, and we're lucky to have you. I'm currently at Accenture, and during the screening, the recruiter asked me, "What's the salary? What's the salary to join Google?" Yeah, and we just say, "Hey, I'm open and negotiable." Well, if it was a range, what would it be? Well, I haven't met with the team or the hiring manager yet. I don't really know enough about the position to provide salary expectations. So I just deflect, deflect, deflect. Like, they're not gonna stop the process because you don't give them that information. A good recruiter would push. I would push you to give me numbers, and I would do it very creatively. But ultimately, if you didn't win my time there, I would never stop from going through the process with you. But the recruiter, okay. So, and then I just want to, but Google asked me what's the lowest salary I couldn't join during the screening. I'm going to have to run soon, but I hope they don't level me down. Like, yeah, asking you what the lowest comp you would accept, that's just bad recruiting, right? So just don't answer their questions. It's my recommendation. Hey, Jeff, I have the RRK interview for TPM at Google yesterday, and the interviewer spent 70% of the time asking about technical judgment, even though there are more requirements for the job. Is this normal? Technical judgments, yeah, it's a big part of the TPM interviews now. So it's not surprising. And just remember, every interviewer, it's like their preference. They can ask whatever the heck they want as long as they're pulling off of the list of questions. They can spend 100% of time focused on technical judgment, even if that's not the guidance and recommendation. It's always going to lean into what they want to ask, and that's pretty typical for most organizations. That it's going to be a pick and choose, and that they'll pick and choose what they want. And again, I always kind of tell the story of at Google, hey, I used to only ask hypothetical questions. I didn't really ask behavioral questions. Why? That was my choice. Um, would I do that? Would I do the same thing now? I wouldn't. I would definitely do more of a hybrid, but I used to just, I'd really come after job interview candidates and see how they handled the ambiguity piece. I really wanted to test that side of the coin, and that was always my approach. Okay. We are out of questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my wrap up. And if any additional questions come in, we still have a good audience right now. If any additional questions come in while I'm doing it, I will answer them. But let's go on a wrap up. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. If you use the promo code 2025, you'll get 25% off of our AI tool today. I'm still doing one on one interview coaching, one on one negotiation coaching, and one on one career strategy sessions. That's resume, LinkedIn, and networking strategies and overall career guidance. Although most of the time we just do resume and LinkedIn. We'll be updating the interview mastery course to include AI. So it's built pre AI, like with publicly facing large language models. So that update's coming through soon. Anybody who's already purchased the course, you get those updates for free, and then anybody buying the course will obviously have the opportunity to get those new features as well. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday, and I promise to get back to more short form content. I've taken a little bit of a break from that for really no good reason. Um, Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. I'm going to answer any last minute questions, and then I'm going to bounce off. At Google, is it recommended to sign an offer soon if a team has a requirement because it's later? It's difficult to find a team with a requirement. Google, is it recommended to sign an offer soon if a team? Not sure I 100% understand the question, but I can speak to, like, if you have a team match and, like, maybe it's not your ideal team, but they like you and they wanna hire you and no other team has indicated that they're ready to take that step, you're definitely putting the job at risk if you don't take that first position because, like, there may not be another team match. I don't know if that's exactly what you're speaking to, but it's important to understand that if you get into this team matching stage where, like, a team wants you and it's not ideal, of course, I want you to do what's best for you, but I also want you to understand that at that stage, the job is not guaranteed that they'll find another position for you. Again, I'm not 100% that I answered that question. So if you hear this answer and I hop off beforehand, happy to have you throw another comment in the comment sections of the live afterwards, and I can answer it. Something about the chat option here in the live sessions. I think someone deletes the chat after typing. Does not go away. I saw this earlier once and see it again today. I think someone deletes the chat after typing. I don't know. I can't say for sure. all the comments should be coming in. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on there. Oh, that means Jeff still sees the chats which have been deleted. Just wanted to let you know. Um, well, let's look at it this way. If somebody felt like it was valuable enough to throw in the chat, I'm happy to answer it even if they deleted it. So I'm not really sure. I use a third party so that I can go live on LinkedIn and YouTube at the same time. So yeah, not really sure. But thank you for the feedback. Always like I just want to absolutely know what's going on. So it's helpful. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Great session today. I will be back next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And in the meantime, check out our AI tool, check out all the YouTube videos, do all the things. Yeah. Everybody take care and have a great day. And hey, thanks for being here. Thanks, everybody. Take care.